called to order. Can we have a roll call by commissioners?
Yes, 1 second. Okay. James O. Woods.
Present.
Peggy Broadway.
Here.
George Gray.
Here.
Ruth Cox.
Present.
Christian Evans.
Here.
James Bisbee.
Here.
Joe Klotz.
Here.
Ellen Sheridan and Tripp Urey are excused.
Okay, thank you. So we have a quorum. All right, and we have our illustrious city lawyer with us today who would like to address us. So we'll go ahead and get that done. Unless you'd like to stay for the whole meeting and everything, we'd be happy for you to
I'm going to decline that lovely invitation.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Madam Chairman, members of the Commission, I'm Scott Davis, City Attorney. I have brought with me tonight a gift from the Board of Aldermen in the form of Miss Jamie Bullock Mosley. She's a new attorney in my office. Going back a good many years, the Board of Aldermen thought that it would be wise for each of our boards and commissions to have an attorney present for all of their meetings. Since I can't be everywhere at the same time, I've been looking for a qualified, capable attorney, and I have found that in Jamie. So she's going to be with you this evening and going forward on a monthly basis. She works in my office right next to my physical office. She works 10 feet from me, so she's in the loop with all of us. Anything you need from me or her, we are available to you. And with that said, I am going to head to another meeting while I leave Jamie with you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Jamie, we certainly welcome you to our meeting, and we will be happy to have you here with us every month. And have you met Matt?
Yes.
Okay, you met Matt. So Matt can also keep you abreast of if anything changes with our meetings and that type thing. You perhaps can give her a calendar of all of our meetings for this year, because we've already approved those. So you can have a calendar so you don't miss our exciting times. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Be comfortable, Jamie.
Okay, so I call for a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. So let me give an introduction to the hearings here. The Historic Preservation Commission is a public commission appointed by the City of New Bern's Board of Aldermen. It is responsible for preserving and safeguarding New Bern's locally designated historic districts, downtown and Riverside, based on U.S. Department of Interior standards, state standards, city ordinances, and New Bern's historic guidelines. Two of the major tasks of the HPC include approving applications for a certificate of appropriateness and preventing demolition of historic structures due to neglect. The HPC holds a quasi-judicial hearing on an application for a certificate of appropriateness. The Commission hears sworn testimony and evidence provided by the applicant, by parties who received notice of the hearing, and by others who can justify that they have relevant evidence and are directly affected by the application. The Commission cannot consider comments based on personal likes or dislikes, hearsay, or personal opinion that cannot be directly related to specific historic guidelines. Likewise, Commissioners shall refrain from stating personal opinion, personal likes or dislikes, or hearsay during a hearing. The Commission's decision on an application is based solely on testimony and evidence presented at a hearing that directly relates to the historic guidelines. So do we have any people to swear in tonight? Do we have just one person?
Yes.
You want to come on?
You swear to tell the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Here's a summary of how we will conduct the hearing. The HBC administrator provides an overview of the application. The The applicant or representative presents the application. Proponents and opponents who receive notice of the hearing can present evidence. Rebuttal is allowed by the applicant and by proponents and opponents who receive notice. Others who can justify that they have relevant information and will be directly affected can present evidence. The HPC administrator presents the staff's findings and their recommendations. The applicant or representative has an opportunity to make final comments on their application. Commissioners discuss the evidence and may ask for clarification from the applicant or the presenters. The chairman calls for a motion to approve or deny the application with stated finding of fact. The motion is discussed by the commission. The chairman calls for a vote on the motion by the commission. So we will proceed. A COA can be approved with conditions, or denied. So let us go to our first application that we have tonight. And that is 415 South Front Street, Blackbeards.
That's correct. Okay, so here we have the beginning of the application. And you can see it's completed and signed and dated. This is the first page of the drawings provided. There we go. It includes photographs of the existing condition. Upper left is a view from the New Bern market, farmer's market. This is a slightly closer up view of that as well. Then this view on the third photo is a view from the backyard, so to say, facing the back side of the deck. Then the photo on the right is a view from the bank parking lot. Then the lower photographs are obviously from the inside portion of the deck. And in this case, this is looking out towards the backyard on the left side of this photograph. And on the right side of the photograph, you can see the garage doors for the farmer's market and beyond the opening.
So that to the left is looking to the back of the building?
Correct, from
Okay.
inside the deck, outside the back, on the left, and a little bit on the...
Okay, so looking
On the
toward the
side.
river more or less.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then this one is almost, is also now looking, standing with your back to the back side of the deck and looking down the left side of the deck on the inside. So you can see, for example, the farmer's market here is on the left-hand side of that photograph. For the third photograph, this is now, again, inside the deck, looking back towards the brick buildings, and this is the entrance into the Blackbeard's restaurant and bar. And then this second to last photograph here, second from the right, is a view along the back side, and it's where the ramp to the off the deck is. And then I'm not sure where this one is. This is the entranceway to the other restaurant that's there, correct? So if you remember, this deck wraps around and is around back behind both.
So that's
of
to the
those.
seafood restaurant?
Yes, correct. Even though it has a skull and crossbones on the door. All right. So this is what we'll see here in the plan, is what we're talking about. That last photograph was for this doorway on the bottom here. And the previous one was for the doorway into Blackbeard's at the top here. And you can see it has this kind of U shape. That's all the existing situation and was approved. So this is a drawing also of the existing condition with the framework shown here in the upper one, typical framework, and then the walkway has a flat roof here, whereas previously it was approved to be a pitched roof with metal roofing. They built it as a flat roof. And then this portion was always intended to be flat and was built flat, which is the main portion of the deck.
So that side faces the farmer's market?
Yes, correct. This is a view from
And
the
Matt,
farmer's market.
which of those would be considered the primary view? Which one is it toward the street?
None of them.
None of them are.
None of them are toward the
This
street?
is all
Okay.
to the back.
They're all at the back.
Gotcha,
Mhm.
okay.
This is all tertiary area of visual concern. So then the area between the roof edge and then below, you see these vertical lines. That represents T111 plywood siding. And then the next view down is a view from the rear yard area, so to say. And then the last one on the bottom is the view, it's a drawing of the existing condition from the bank parking lot. Okay? So, for example, so you can see the existing brick building. The front brick building is on the right of that one. And then here also they've provided a sketch or detail of the construction as a cross section through the structure. So the top obviously is the roof and it has a slight overhang. And then the T111 siding is the vertical black line along this area here. And that is shows a dimension of 3'9", I believe, or 3'3". 3'3". There we go. That's a little bit bigger. And then when that ends, there's a header piece of framing here. There's a 5-foot opening, and then below that is essentially a double. Two pieces of wood that provide basically like a windowsill or an opening. For the opening, there is no window there, it's just an opening. And then the T111 is also at the bottom in most cases, not always. So let's go back to the elevations again to explain. Oh, and then below that is a piece of lumber that acts as like a skirt board. And then that's all a few inches above the ground. So let's use this view here. This is the one that's from the backyard, essentially. So here you can see those members. You have the roof at the top, you have the 3'3" of T111, you have the 5-foot opening. Then you have the T111 again below the opening down to the floor level, and then the skirt board around the perimeter. So on the right-hand side, it's T111 from top to bottom. And this here is an opening with a ramp coming out there. Okay.
Do we have a picture of this ramp?
Yeah, I think that was the one photograph.
Right there.
I think that was this. Well, no. Sorry. Yeah, it's similar. There's two ramps actually. So that ramp is right here. It's behind this furniture. You can't quite see the ramp.
And what's the ramp made of? No, I can't see it.
It's made out of wood, just like the deck.
Okay.
Okay. And there is a second ramp that goes out towards the farmer's market. That's along this edge here. Okay. We might be standing on the ramp to take that picture, though. Okay. So that's the existing. So what they're now proposing is, and we discussed this in design review, however, there's a slight change. So just to go over, it's essentially the same as what you saw in design review. Instead of, so the T111, as we just showed in those other drawings, covers this area which is shown here in horizontal lines. The horizontal lines are the wood louvers that were approved the first time around. In this particular case, the slight change that's happened since the design review meeting is that they're proposing to actually leave the T111 up there and then have the louvers mounted in front of the T111. So you can see that the louvers then represent the same shape that the T111 currently is at now.
Do we have a picture of that?
You mean a photo to represent that?
Yeah.
I don't think we do. It would essentially look the same as we had always seen before, except it'll have a piece of plywood behind the louvers rather than being open air. So this section here kind of gives you the same idea here. Let's see. Let's make it bigger so I can see that better. Here's the section. So you see the black line is still the T111, and then the louvers are mounted out in front of the T111.
But we don't have a pictures of what the louvers look like.
Well, let's see. I actually do have the previous.
That's not exactly the same. This is a drawing representing the louvers.
Right. So I do have the.
Yeah, but-
hold on 1 second.
But you don't have the louvers for this application on here.
They're right there. They're drawn.
Where's right there?
Well, they're drawn on here. There's drawn there. There's no photograph
Yeah, I don't see it.
in this revised application. The previous application does have one. Hold on.
They don't exist, right?
Yeah, I don't see any louvers up there.
I didn't think it was.
So the louvers have not been installed yet because they want to get the approval for it.
Yeah.
So, but here's a photograph that kind of represents what they've.
It's the horizontal lines versus the verticals.
That's
Right.
right.
So this is from this application?
No.
Okay. So as I'm saying, in this application, we don't have a picture of the louvers.
We do not
Because
have.
they don't exist yet.
They don't
I have
exist.
drawn them as an architectural drawing representing what they will be. And that's what I have presented to you.
I don't understand it when you say what they will be, because we need to see what they will be.
I have drawn that for you, which is what I always do as an architect.
But where,
I
well,
draw it out.
show me where it is in this application.
Okay?
I mean, I
Wait a
just
minute,
don't
I'm
see it.
confused. I thought it was about the T111 and not the louvers. Did something change when I left design review?
You all asked me to, so what happened was I presented something which had louvers. The owner installed T111 instead. That happened. Matt asked us to come back a year later, which we are here, representing the owner and the restaurant owner to try and mitigate what has happened. And so what we are proposing is, if you can see in the right-hand side, I have drawn out the louvers, and the left-hand side also show the louvers. The way they constructed this building, they put the beam on the outside of the structure. If you go to the right, you can see that.
So you're telling me right there, that's a louver?
Yes, ma'am.
Not on the right-hand side,
Both on the
Explain to me how
right
that's
and the
a louver.
the
left.
left-hand drawing. That one.
So here where it says 3'3", that whole area is louvers.
But that's not what we've seen
They're
on
closed.
the pictures. On the pictures, we see the T111.
This is what we
This
are
is the
proposing.
proposal.
So you're gonna take the T111s down?
No.
We're gonna, it doesn't matter if we take it down or not. The beam is there, so nothing can go in between it. It can only go on top of it. And that's why I drew the section, so that you could see that even if you took off the T111, it wouldn't matter because that beam is there. And to me, to make it look like what you approved in the beginning would be to take a louver and put it on the outside of of the T111 in panels that line up with what you had approved in the beginning anyway.
But
So-
then you would have louvers that can't open, right?
It was never, you know, the whole idea of the louver was that you could leave it there or you could take it out.
So it's not to screen or,
It's purely decorative.
What happened last time is that at design review is I felt that it made no sense to talk about all of the necessary revisions to what they did. They should just submit a brand-new application saying, this is what we're gonna do, this is what's there now, this is what we're gonna do. So this should be treated and looked at as a brand-new application. Nothing exists from the past. All we can do is look at the building that's currently there and say, this is the proposal.
Right.
And to me, that was just a lot simpler than saying, well, what about this inch or that inch or this
Right.
board or that board? Like, no, this is just a brand-new application.
We're trying to make it look like the first application that was
Let's
approved.
don't get to let's don't talk about the first application. Let's don't go there, because we went there for half an hour or so last time. So that's why I said, this is supposed to be a whole new application,
Okay.
okay, based on what is there and what they're suggesting at this point in time.
Right.
So that's where we are right now. So to stick here, and I apologize because I started asking questions, but let us go through the order that we need to go in. So you have presented your application. There is nobody out in the audience, so there are no opponents, there are no proponents, there are no people from the state, city, or government. So we will let Matt give us his staff's finding, and then you can make any final comments, and then we'll carry on with this discussion about the application. So,
All right.
Matt, can you give us what you and your staff suggest?
Sure. So this is the application for 415 South Front Street. And the historic property name for 415 is Interstate Securities, built in 1975, which makes it a non-contributing structure. So the application is to include, well, originally it was replacing T111 siding, but there, in this case, we have to revise that to include installing louver screens over the existing T111 siding. If we're viewing this as a brand new application, we're no longer revising roofing materials, we are just approving the roofing materials that are there. And this is all for the covered deck in the tertiary AVC. So staff summits, oh boy, the following historic district guidelines as appropriate to this application. For accessibility and life safety, it's 4.7.2. For paint, it's 5.4.2 and 5.4.4. For contemporary materials, it's 5.5.1, 5.5.2, 5.5.3, and 5.5.6. And the statements of reason, based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment, are: 1, the primary structure is not a contributing resource in the district. 2, the project is within the tertiary AVC, is a replacement of non-compliant siding material, or at least in this case covering non-compliant siding material, and revises 2 areas of the roof with compliant roof form and roofing. We would have to remove that second portion of that sentence. We're no longer revising an existing roof. And 3, the proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly, and the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to include installing louver screens over the existing T111 siding for the covered deck in the tertiary AVC.
Okay.
So
Are
we
there
have
any-
do we have the wording for that? Everybody have that straight?
Go back and read number 2 under statements of reason, please.
Sure. Number 2, the project is within the tertiary AVC and covers a non-compliant siding material. And that would be it.
Okay, so is there any final comments you would like to make? Haven't, okay. All right, so now we'll call for discussion by the members. So what other discussion do the members have? And I'll go back to the louvers. So what other questions or discussion do we have at this point in time?
I thought that the COA was supposed to be for the T111 because that's what's up there now. Because the COA we were discussing was with the louvers. So we asked Sarah to bring back a brand new COA with the T111.
No.
That's not
That's
what
not
we said.
what we did, no. We decided, again, we decided to do away with the previous COA altogether.
Correct,
Because there
correct.
was too much that had to be changed to do anything with that COA. So this is a brand new COA to be considered with what she is presenting today. So that's why I say, don't go back to the old COA. We've given up on that. That's a dead horse. So we're now looking at what they want to do with that building where they didn't do what they originally were supposed to do in the first COA. And so that COA is dead. Now we are considering this as a brand new COA.
So can I just simplify it?
If you
So
can.
today, there is a deck there.
Say that again.
There is a deck there
Yeah.
that's been constructed. It has the full layout, structure, the deck, everything on the inside, all that's there. The roof is there. It's really, the T111 is the only non-compliant piece of all this. And so their remedy to fix the non-compliant T111 is to place louvers over top of the T111.
So you're saying it's non-compliant from the outside, but not from the inside?
The T111 is not compliant as an exterior siding.
But it's okay to see it from the inside?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
We don't go.
We don't look at what happens on the inside at HBC. So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, decks are, and porches are kind of an interesting thing. It's not that clear as to whether or not how much we care about what's on the inside. So for porches, obviously, which is not really inside, but now if you enclose the porch, then do we care? I mean, if you screen it in, so it's a little bit gray area. So the other thing to consider is the other two aspects are that this is a non-contributing building to begin with. It's a deck structure, and it's in the tertiary area. So how important is that going to be, whether or not you see that T111? The other factor that the applicant brought up is that if you were to remove the T111, there are structural beams across the top of those openings, above the openings. And so if you were to just put louvers on that, you would see, at least partially see, the beams behind the louvers. So it's not necessarily as attractive as perhaps just having the T111 behind them.
And
So what they're proposing then is to take these louvers, and they're going to cover from underneath the roof over the T111 down to the opening.
Exactly.
Yep, correct.
That's it.
So that's what they're proposing to do, to take care of this T111 siding that's inappropriate.
That's correct,
And
but
those
covering it all.
louvers are gonna stay up 24 hours a day.
Yes,
So they're gonna nail them up there and they're never gonna come off.
most likely.
Well, most likely won't do it for us. No,
They're not designed to be removable.
They're not designed to be removed.
okay. All right, because I'm not even gonna say what I was gonna say because it's to do with the old one. Okay. All right, so my question is,
Thank you.
I don't see a picture. If I was looking at the louvers standing in front of them, I don't see a picture of that in your application.
Just a drawing.
Just a drawing,
I don't see a drawing.
right
Right
there.
there.
Right there.
All those little,
That's your louvers that you're gonna put over.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you're not gonna cover the opening.
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so that helps me. That's fine. Okay. Okay, because I thought you were gonna be covering the whole opening
I did too.
No,
from what you said. That's why I asked the question, and you're telling me these are never gonna be removed. Because in the summertime, I have some idea about the heat in there. So you're only gonna put louvers on the outside of those beams up at the top to cover the T111.
we're going to put the louvers everywhere where there is T111.
So at the bottom, everywhere there's T111, you're just gonna put louvers,
Right,
type materials that are never gonna, they're not gonna open and close like louvers do, and they're not gonna be removed.
no,
You have answered my question. Thank you.
Okay.
I was very confused about what you were doing. So all of that we see right there is gonna be covered
right,
with louvers.
yes.
Okay? All right. And so let's just be clear, all this open area that's there is not gonna have any louvers and not gonna have anything in it that covers it up.
No,
Okay? So that's what they're asking to do now. Does anybody have any questions?
You covered it very nicely.
Thank you, Jeff. Anybody, any questions? Now that we're all straight on what they're doing to solve this
More
problem.
simple when the louvers are wood.
yes.
Okay, so does anybody have a motion they'd like to make for this?
Madam Chair, I move that we find the application for 415 South Front Street, nope. Right, 415 South Front Street for a certificate of appropriateness. Let me start over. I move that we find the application for a certificate of appropriateness for 415 South Front Street to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance Sections 15-411 to 15-429 and New Bern's Historic District Guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Accessibility and life safety, 4.7.2. Paint, 5.4.2 and 5.4.4. Contemporary materials, 5.5.1, 5.5.2, 5.5.3, and 5.5.6. Findings of fact, the primary structure is not a contributing resource in the district. The project is within the Tertiary AVC, is a covering of non-compliant siding material and revises two areas of the roof with compliant roof form and roofing. The proposed design, components, and materials meet the requirements of guidelines. The zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines.
Second.
Okay, we have a second.
Yes, in the application, it says to include replacing T111 siding with louvers, so we're not really replacing it,
No,
So,
we're covering it.
that's a misprint.
let's clarify, you may be reading, yes, so the application actually says to cover T111 with stained wood louver panels. It was just the staff report, which was done before the revision, the latest revision to the drawing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So we're all clear, just to be clear what we're voting on, they're going to cover up all of this T111 that exists on this deck. upper and lower, and anywhere else that it's there, they're gonna cover it up
Right.
with louvers, right? Is that what you're asking for?
Yes.
Okay, so we're all clear on what's happening. All right. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. Do I have a motion to issue a COA?
So moved.
Do I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
All of those in favor say aye.
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 All of those opposed? Hearing none, you can issue the COA to cover up all of this T111, and may we never, ever have to see it again.
Thank you so much for working with the owner and the client on this. I really appreciate it.
Good luck, Sarah.
Okay, we have taken care of Blackbeard's. So what about 309 Bern Street? What do you want to tell us about that, sir?
Okay, so 309 Bern Street, the applicant, the owner's name is Dee Congleton, and the applicant is Sarah Offenbach. The project is also described, all the various guidelines indicated, the materials listed, and it's been signed and dated. Here again is the drawing. Sorry to, let's go with that one, see what happens. Okay, so this is essentially a summary of the project. This is the rear of the house, because we were talking about an addition on the rear of the house and a screened-in porch, a new screened-in porch. So this top left photo is the front of the house from the street, and then the right is the back of the house. And to note is, of course, the rear door and stairs, and also this one window here. Also note that this is this rear portion here is a one-story portion with a shed roof on it and all standing seam metal. Again, on the lower left, same thing from the other side. And then just a view of the size of the yard, and then a streetscape to give context. The subject house is here on the right. This is an aerial view and site plan showing the existing house here in black or dark gray. The front porch is this white area on the right with the front steps. And so the proposal is to add this one single room on the back. And it has a fireplace on the back side. And then the screened-in porch is added here on this back corner. And it has stairs down to the yard from there. In addition to, I guess that's why we had the photo of the yard. The proposal also includes a small shed for this back corner of the yard. So let me go quickly back up to the yard. So it's in this corner of this yard. Okay, so then we have the drawings for this. The floor plan is here on the left with the street. The front of the house is at the top. And then this is the existing rear door and rear steps, and that one window I pointed out. Also of note here in the existing floor plan is this little bump out next to the fireplace that will come up as a feature for the design. So looking at this is existing drawing of the rear of the house, the doorway, window, and then that bump out piece from the side. Then the side of the house that does not have the bump out. So we have the front porch here on the left, and then that one-story shed piece and the stairs coming out the back. So this is now the proposed floor plan with the new room added here on the rear, using the existing doorway. The existing window, however, has to shift, and it moves over here to above the sink in the kitchen. And then let's see, like I said, just basically a square room addition. There's one window on this side, 2 windows on the rear, new doorway out to the new screened porch. Let's see. Oh, and then up top here is drawings for the shed. Just a small square with a pointy roof. This is all in this case, now it's all in wood. I don't think it shows on here a call out for the roofing material for that though. Looks like it's wood shingle.
I didn't put that on there. I believe it is wood shingle.
Yeah, I think you may have had it in the application but didn't have it called out here.
Okay.
And this shed is also built on a brick foundation. So now here's the proposed elevation. So the rear, where there had been a door and a window, now there's an addition. So this is the back side of the addition. Here's the little fireplace. Does not need a chimney, and so it is, you'll see it's from the other side, you'll see it over here on the right. It reflects that same shape that occurs already on the house on this side. Okay. 2 windows, then the screened-in porch here on the right. This is a low-slope roof, relatively low slope as opposed to the main house, but is similar to the shed roof that's, not the same, but similar to the shed roof that's on the back. The addition is also built on a brick foundation, as is the screened porch addition. So from this side on the right, we're showing a window, the window here, and the standing seam metal roof. And so that is the case for the roof over the porch as well. And then we also see the railing and steps, the new railing and steps from the porch. And then from the other side, where we do see the existing bump out next to the chimney, this is now the addition on the back of the house with a gable end configuration here and metal roof shown on the room addition as well. And that pretty much does it there. So that's essentially their proposal. The foundation does not have any venting that's required, so there's none provided.
Okay.
All right.
Are there any conflicts of interest relating to this project from anyone? Any issues on the application's completeness? Okay. And again, ma'am, do you have anything else you'd like to say? She said, shaking her head no. There's no one else in the audience, so we have no opponents, we have no proponents, we have no city, state, or government body to say anything. So, sir, I guess you're up again to tell us what you and your staff recommend.
Okay. So first, actually, I missed this. Is we have here is the zoning and inspector's report on this one, and the zoning official said it meets the requirements of the land use ordinance, and building inspector, chief building inspector said, of course, it will need a building permit. So the findings and recommendations for this project at 309 Bern Street. It is, historic property name is the Federal-Period Cottage, and it was actually built around 1800 to 1820. So it's contributing structure. And the description, the project is to include an addition and new screen porch in the Tertiary AVC. The National Register inventory description from 2003 describes it as the existing house, 1.5 stories, 4 bays by 2 bays, shed-roofed porch, gable end roof, and exposed face chimney in the south elevation. For the Sandbeck description in 1988, I pulled out the section, the relevant section is that it merited a careful restoration in the late 1970s. The original gabled dormers, 2 on each roof slope, light the finished attic story. Early 1-story shed rooms extend across the rear of the house. So just want to add that one of the 2 rear gabled dormers has already been removed, is gone. It's not part of this project, but all right. And here we summit the following historic guidelines as appropriate to this application. For accessory structures, 2.6.1, 2.6.2, and 2.6.3. For modifications, 3.2.1, 3.2.2. For additions, 3.3.1, 3.3.2, and 3.3.3. For foundations, 4.1.1, 4.1.2, and 4.1.3. For walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. For windows, doors, and openings, 4.3.1, 2, 3, and 5. For entrances, it's 4.4.1, 4, and 5. For roofs, it's 4.5.4. For masonry, 5.1.2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. For wood, 5.2.1 and 2. For metals, 5.3.2. Paint, 5.4.1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. So, statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: the primary structure is a contributing resource in the district. The project is within the tertiary AVC. The proposed design, components, and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. The zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to include an addition and new screened porch in the tertiary AVC.
Ma'am, do you have anything else you'd like to add at this time? She's shaking her head no. Members, do you have questions, comments that you'd like to ask about this application?
A couple of points of clarification. The siding of the enclosed addition is essentially identical to the rest of the house,
Yes, painted wood.
painted wood, and the roof is also standing seam.
Yes, hand-seamed metal to match.
Could you flash up the pictures again of the construction?
Do you want the drawings, is that what you're saying?
The drawings, yeah.
Or the photos? Okay.
No, the drawings. Slide it over to the right. No, the other right. What is that in the middle between the 2 windows? Is that
That's the chimney. And
Or
so
the fireplace?
it's essentially a firebox. She wanted a fireplace, and originally we had a brick chimney on there, but it's not necessary. So she's got that little shape on the right-hand side of her existing house that is essentially a closet with a window in it.
Yeah.
And I
It
forget
kinda
the name
mirrors
of
that.
it, and it kind of mirrors that. So
Okay.
that's why we put it there.
okay?
Matt, a question about your recommendation. Do you need to add that you have addition and you have a new screen porch? Do you also need to add the shed there as well?
That's the accessory structure.
Right, when you have a motion, you just have a motion that you approve the application.
Oh, I'm sorry, I gotcha. Right, for the motion. Oh, right, that's correct, yes. We didn't include that at all in the description, but it is obviously in the project, in the
Yes.
application. So
Yes.
yes, I would, yes. So the motion, or the recommendation would be to approve this application to include an addition, a new screened porch, and a new shed
In the tertiary area.
in the tertiary AVC.
Do we have any other questions, clarifications by any members that you'd like to ask now? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion regarding this project?
Madam Chair, I move that we find a certificate of appropriateness for 309 Bern Street to be in non-congruence with New Bern's Code of Ordinance, sections 15411 through 15429, and New Bern's Historical District Guidelines, based on the following specific guidelines and findings of facts. Accessory structures, 2.6.1 through 3, modifications 2.3.1 and 2, additions 3.3.1 through 3.3.3, foundations 4.1.1, 2, and 3, walks, trims, and ornaments 4.2.1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, windows, doors, and openings 4.3.1, 2, 3, and 5, entrances 4.1, 4.4.4, 4.4.5, roofs 4.5.4, masonry 5.1.2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, wood 5.2.1 and 2, metals 5.3.2, paints 5.4.1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. Findings of facts. 1, that the primary structure is a contributing resource in the district. 2, that the project is within the tertiary AVC. 3, that the proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commended accordingly. 5, the project is not congruent with the guidelines.
Second.
Do you have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, hearing none, motion passed.
Is that Jim as the second?
I did.
That was Joe.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Do I have a motion to issue a COA?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
A second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, the motion passed to issue your COA.
Thank you so much.
You're certainly welcome. Okay, so if we go to the next item, number 4, old business. We have none listed on the agenda. Does anybody else know of any old business we have?
No.
Okay. General public comments, but we have no general public at this point in time. So we'll go on to new business with discussion and decide on any training videos what we might want to look at. What do we want to do about that?
Sure, I have to apologize, I did not get to that before the meeting, so we'll have to postpone that until the next meeting.
Okay, so we'll put that on the next agenda.
So prior, we may even make that prior to the design review meeting so that you all can decide which one you want to see next.
Okay,
Or maybe Ruth and I will decide which one to do next, and then the schedule will come up at the meeting.
okay. One way or the other, we'll get it done.
Yep.
Okay, and next, the administrator's report, and if you go on the back page and turn it over, you see the majors that have been done and many of the minors. And does anybody have any questions about the majors or the minors?
I just want to point
I'm
out
not
this
talking
is,
about baseball now.
No.
We're talking about the HBC, no baseball.
no, I just want to point out this is for 2 months, right? Because we didn't have December meetings.
Right.
So this is what's happened since
For 2 months?
the November meeting.
Okay. The next item is on the COA extension for the farmer's market, where we approved for them to replace the garage doors around the farmer's market. Y'all remember we did that? They brought in pictures, etc.
Right.
And so they've been given a 1-year extension. Is that what's happened?
They've requested one. They haven't gotten it yet, but yes,
So do
because
we need to vote on that?
no,
Okay.
no, that's
Is that something you'll issue?
yes, that's generally just a staff issue.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So, under other items and updates, I have 2 things to bring up. Does anybody anybody else have anything they want to bring up under other items and updates? Okay. So the first item I want to bring up is a report from our little group, being Christian and myself, on the awards, we can't say committee, what am I supposed to say, awards group?
Working group or work group.
Okay, our working group. And so we went to and looked at, we got online and we looked at some other cities in our state and in other states about what kind of awards that they gave. And Matt also gave us some information that we looked at to, again, look at awards, what they were categorized. And so we have come up with some ideas for discussion by the commission about how to proceed with giving out awards to those who have refurbished the wonderful buildings that we have. So one of the items that we need to decide on is categories. Next item we need to decide on is how often. Would we do it quarterly? And would we also give perhaps a big award at the end of the year? We could do that. We could do both. We could do either. The next one is an application packet. And we really kind of don't need to create that. We've got some from what we pulled off of line that we could use. So we've got an example we could go to. The next item would be publication of each award. So once the award was given, how would we publicize that? Would we use the newspaper, the Historical Society, Hydra? How would we go on TV? How would we publicize that? And then the last item that we came up with is where would we put this on the city webpage? Would we put that under our stuff? Is that because we have something on there about our commission and people can go on and pull down the guidelines? So would we put it there? So these are some items that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items, general items that we came up with, having looked at what other cities have done. And so how would you, does anybody else have any other items on this that you would like to add? Big items. Do you have some other ideas about this? You have 2 ideas.
No, just one.
You have one idea.
I was raising my hand with 2 fingers.
Okay.
Just the question of what the awards would comprise.
Oh, so when they got the award, so they, in the other cities, what they have done is given them a certificate, a certificate they could frame and put in their establishment. You and I discussed, because in some of the cities, they give just an end-of-the-year award. And so one of the things that I thought about was possibly have a year-end award, and that we present some type of trophy that I would like to offer with my father's name on that, because my father was mayor and he helped get the historic districts and the commission going. So I would like to offer that as, again, a way to thank people for what they've done for our city. Does that answer your question? That's what we thought about. Do you all have some other ideas?
So another question might be whether or not there's any a monetary award, or for that matter, if the award is something other than a certificate, maybe it's a plaque, or it's one of the a wooden box like people have on on the historic homes, have that wooden box with the name and stuff on it.
Yes, those are options.
A medallion or something that instead of a plaque that could be added, because some of the properties already may already have the wooden box.
We used to have,
thing.
there was the so-called Governor's Walk plaques that were put on
Yeah,
the houses.
yeah.
And then that went by the wayside, but that was really a nice feature.
Say that again?
It was something called the Governor's Walk,
Right.
and historic properties could have them on their property, and then it disappeared probably in the late 1990s or early 2000s, and some of those plaques still exist, but they haven't been issued in 20 years. But something like that you can affix to your home, so
There's-
that even if it wasn't a box, because a lot,
Sure.
like I say, a lot of places have that, but very few now retain those plaques,
Right.
so we could go back to that.
That's
So-
a good idea.
And
Could
it's
al-
almost like a
That
walking
would be
tour
good
where
for-
people could see the houses that
Mhm.
were lovingly restored and therefore, of note.
So, and similar to that is, could it be like a small yard sign that people stick in the ground that's maybe closer to the sidewalk, and is more temporary, but, the 2021 such and such award winner or something.
Yeah.
Those are all,
Yeah, those are all good, very good suggestions that we have to think about and decide on.
and as far as kind of a trophy thing, and naming it after people, you could have several different categories that each have a different name
We could?
associated with them, related to historic preservation in New Bern.
I
I'm sure,
like the idea.
sure there's
of
several
having-
other people that could also be honored by that as well.
Well, how
I
about,
like the idea of having a significant trophy, kind of like a Stanley Cup, that would stay here in City
Oh.
Hall. And then the winner that year would get
it's their name.
Have their name, yeah.
affixed to the trophy's base.
That's a good idea.
Mhm.
And
And
that
So-
way it's
Well, how
very
about the
perpetuity.
quarterly, you have a quarterly contest, and then whoever wins the quarterly contest, then they'll be able to qualify, or they'll be considered for the year-end contest.
Right, why not?
That's a very good
We
idea.
So
can-
then
we
your
can do it that
quarterly
way.
contest, you can name the year-end contest
After your father.
after Dr. Ruth's father. The quarterly contest could be named after other significant people in the city. Each quarter is a different name, and whoever wins those awards, they get selected. And then at the end of the year, you just have one big winner, and the Stanley Cup, their name goes on the big trophy that stays here in City Hall.
That's a very good, that's a good idea.
So, I would like to then suggest that, if you can pull some of this together, and in the next month or so, and figure out how much, cost this might be, that, you may be able to request a certain amount of funds to defray the costs, in the city budget.
Something that might add to it, from years ago on the Appearance Commission, we actually had beautification awards, and we did them annually, and you had people to notify, to beautify their yards, and we would go around and different communities and select and vote, and they were presented awards at the Alderman meeting.
Yeah, I remember that was, now they didn't do it in 20, but they did it in 21, in 19.
I don't know if they've still continued it, Jay.
I know in 19 they did it because I can remember Carolina East got an award for like their size business, and I remember some of the different, every community had a winner, and they got a little certificate here at the Alderman's meeting. I remember that in 19. I know last year they didn't do it.
So that's another piece of it is, recognition at, say, the alderman's.
I got that, I added that, that's a wonderful idea. And some of the categories that we came up with, during our kind of research and what we did, was a preservation award, that for a person who adhered most closely to the guidelines, most outstanding project, community revitalization, community investment, and renovation. So these are some of the categories that have been used in other cities. Now, we may want to come up with other categories that we particularly want to use. For instance, in Bristol, Tennessee, they just gave one ward a year, and it was just a general ward for preservation, but they just gave it one time a year. But like Greensboro had all of these, their preservation, they had these different categories that could be used. So we would need to decide what the categories are, and then these other items here that we want to do. Would you want us to perhaps type this up in like a single page thing with these things, the categories that we have looked at?
What your recommendations are for what we
Okay,
do.
and also there was in some places they made a distinction between residential and commercial. That was also another distinction that was made. So we could type all of this up in one document for you to review perhaps. Would that be helpful? And I can add all the other suggestions that have been made tonight.
Yeah.
Would that
And Ruth,
would
when
that
I
be helpful?
When I lived in Greensboro, the garden clubs had that breakdown, commercial and
Did
private.
that? Okay, all right.
Madam Chair, may I please be excused?
Say that again?
May I please be excused? I have a 7 o'clock Zoom meeting I'm hosting.
Yes, sir. You may be excused.
We'll keep you informed.
Yeah, we're near you. Okay, well, we will get together again, and we will get all of that written up for what we have so far, and then we can go from there.
Madam Chair, I'd suggest that the working group discussions are usually commenced at the design review meeting. So we could, if you guys could have that ready by February 3rd, we could, finalize it at that point.
Yes,
Because
we
I don't
can.
think,
Can we do that?
I don't think this needs a formal motion or anything for any of that to be implemented.
Okay.
So,
Can we do that by then, Kristen?
We can try.
Okay. Okay, we'll
it
do
sounded
our-
like you're just typing it up, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do our best. I can type all that.
Okay.
Okay, the next item that I wanted to bring up was, which we haven't talked about in a little bit, is our demolition by neglect group, working group. I think there's 3 or 4 of you on there. And we talked at our last meeting about this house down on South Front Street, South Front Street. No, East Front Street. That red house that finally has gotten itself resolved. Is that not right, Matt?
I'm sorry, ask that last question again?
That house down there
Yes.
on East Front Street has finally got itself resolved. Somebody's bought it.
Yes, it's now been sold.
Right. So that's moving forward. But, that was 30 years. So we don't want to be 30 years with the houses that we have on this list now. Matt has also told me that he thinks that we need to review the procedure about how items got added and subtracted to this list. Would you like to speak to that?
Sure. So, reviewing the procedures that have been laid out for these structures, it appears that, well, first of all, the originating list that we had, we've added and subtracted since that, and we need to review if we've done that correctly or not, and I suspect we may not have. So we may be back to the original list officially, and then to add the new ones and subtract the ones that have been completed more in the proper process.
Okay, so are you aware now of the correct procedure that
Yes.
we need to use for
Mhm.
adding and subtracting to the list?
That's correct.
Okay. So if you could get with this group and talk with them about that procedure, the correct procedure,
Yes.
and if this group could give us I think we need to work on this monthly.
Yes.
So if this group could give us a report on this at design review, so Christian and I will give a report on the awards committee. If you all can get together and go house by house, whether it needs to be re-added, taken off, whatever, removed, whatever needs to go, so that we can get moving on these houses and get a better understanding of the process. If these houses that have been there for 5, 6, 8, 10 years, if they're having fines that are being given for them, what's happening about those fines. We have our new addition here.
Yeah.
We have our new lawyer that can help us investigate and find out perhaps what legally is happening about the fines and, letters being sent out and who's collecting them and what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay? So if we can do that, and then the other thing that Joe brought up to me is about, you had asked a meeting or so ago about those trees down on your street,
The one tree, yes.
okay? And what has happened about that tree? Because we brought that up here one or two times. Do you know, Matt, what's happened about that tree?
So, I did investigate before the break, I think a week or two ago.
Okay.
And so, I did see that there's nothing but a stump there. And that is apparently the old tree that was there, and then they planted a new tree and that one's gone. Is that correct, Joe?
It was there 2 days ago.
Okay, so I need you to show me which tree it is, because
It's
in
the
front of
only-
214 Pollock, there are no trees.
What is that address again, please?
Well, 214 Pollock is a stump.
Right,
It's in front of the house that Cynthia is
Okay.
renovating. Next door to that, at the Meadows Inn, they planted a redbud, which is not a tree that provides a canopy.
yeah, okay. So, I was intending to contact the Parks and Rec Department to get a new tree planted near where the stump is. That would be a shade tree and not a redbud.
Very good, yeah, that doesn't
So,
help us.
however, I think what Joe is suggesting is that the redbud should perhaps be removed and replaced with another shade
What I'm
tree.
suggesting is that the city has chosen not to follow the guidelines that we have.
Mhm.
That's what I'm suggesting. And we need to understand, and the city needs to understand with us, why they think they're exempt from following the guidelines.
Yeah, no, they're not, because they do, for every other street tree that they remove, they provide us application like everyone else. Complete
Well,
with
they didn't on
a,
that one.
no, right, so, first of all, I don't know how long ago that redbud was planted?
It was planted in the fall,
This past fall.
yeah,
Was there a tree there before?
once upon a time, but they had.
Okay, that might be the problem, is they weren't removing a tree, they were just planting
Well, they
one.
had removed the tree that was there, it was a pecan, they removed it around 2005.
Yeah, okay, so 15 years ago, yeah.
Well, but still,
No, I'm just saying,
all you have to do
they've
is.
lost track of that, and the process at the moment relies on removing a tree in order to, and then replacing it. But
If they
what
look
you're
at any of the
suggesting is that
photographic
when there
essays-
isn't a tree to be removed, they still need to be able to adhere to the guidelines for shade trees on these streets.
If they look at any of the photographic essays of New Bern
Mm.
that go back prior to, let's say, 1940,
Uh-huh.
they won't see any redbuds, they won't see any crepe myrtles, they won't see any of those kinds of trees that they have persisted in planting. Since 1980, when the HPC was formed, they have assiduously avoided following the guideline which said to plant a tree that provides a similar canopy to the one that died or was removed.
Right,
And they persist in not.
right. Yeah, so 15 years ago, apparently, they didn't do that. And
Well, they're still not doing it, obviously, because it
No,
was
when-
past fall.
no, when they are removing trees, it goes over my desk and I make sure that they're putting in the same tree canopy that they remove.
And because the last time I had a discussion with the Appearance Commission, which had some say-so about this, they started throwing out silly things like, well, those trees don't belong on the planting strip, those are self-pruning trees. And they had all kinds of reasons to not replace the existing trees with similar species.
Mhm.
They then came up with a list of approved species. You know, it's,
So do we need to get the head of the Parks and Recreation who takes care of that? Do we need to have him come
Yeah, no, I
talk to
can,
us? What should we
Yeah.
do to impress upon this person that they need to follow the guidelines and they need to come before us?
Well,
How is the best way to do
yeah, I
that?
think I can talk to them, and if they have some reason to explain to you that they're, you know, why they're not doing it, then we can certainly have them come then. But if they're willing to do what we're asking without having to bring them forward here, then I think that should suffice.
Okay, and then if
Ruth,
you will
at one
address
time-
this issue that Joe's talking about this tree down there,
Exactly.
and then get back to us at design review.
Yep,
And
exactly.
at one point, when I was on Appearance Commission, Parks and Rec had a list of trees that were to be used for street trees between the sidewalk and the city, and also the ones that needed to come off of private property, they needed to replace the same tree if possible, if amenable. So they did have a list, Matt, of
Yeah,
the
so
trees
we-
that they use, so you
So
might.
we use the list, at least in our office. I didn't even know that the Appearance Commission had their own list. But in our office, we use the list that's provided in the zoning ordinance.
Yeah,
And it is divided out by small shade trees, large shade trees, deciduous trees, etc. There are different categories. So when a large shade tree is removed, we require that they use one of the large shade trees.
yeah.
Well, first of all, sorry, let me back up. First of all, in order to get the removal, they have to have a certified arborist provide a report as to justify the removal of the tree. And then second is we ask the arborist to also provide their recommended replacement, considering they understand the environmental requirements of trees and the environmental constraints of the location. And then when we review, we make sure that their recommendation has a canopy that's similar in size to the one that's being removed. So, that's how we determine and approve the replacements.
Might ask for that list to see if they still have it. Be interesting to compare your list and their list.
Well, and it sounds like Joe might have a problem with that list.
Yeah,
if the list does not reflect what our guidelines call for, then I would have a major problem with it.
Yeah.
Sitting down around the table and somebody saying, this is a nice tree, this is a pretty tree,
Right.
that's not sufficient. It has to address the guideline, and you
Right.
just did. I think you did that very well. You
Yeah.
talked about similar canopies, similar amounts of shade, and
Right.
crepe myrtles are on that list. They shouldn't be.
Well, yeah, so if someone wants to remove a crepe myrtle, they can put a crepe myrtle back. But,
Well, but that's not true if we talk about
The shade tree.
what the city used to look like.
right,
You know,
Yeah.
we can keep changing and changing and changing and saying, well, we didn't have the guidelines then, so therefore we can do what we want, and we did. And we did some really bad things.
right.
And now we can continue to do the bad things because we already violated what is now the guideline.
Mhm.
and Joe is absolutely right. We actually have residents in New Bern that were once very influential, and they wanted all crepe myrtles everywhere.
They're very
Nothing but
pretty.
crepe myrtles
No,
for street
yes.
trees.
Yep.
I can't think of anything worse.
Yeah, so I think that opinion has changed. And The other thing, though, that I want to point out was, though, that the process that we have in place does not address situations where the streets department is not removing a tree at the moment. So, for example, the one where you said redbud was planted, there wasn't a tree there before, so they didn't have to go through, they didn't think they had to go through the process for planting the tree.
There was a tree there before, since I
It was
moved
just
to New Bern.
15
there
years
was a
ago,
tree
though, right?
there. It was taken down about 10 or 15 years
Yeah.
ago. Now, if they have a short memory, that's their problem. All they need to do is look in the book and
Mhm.
see that house, because there's a picture of it, with the tree that was in front of it.
Yeah,
That's all they had to do. But they didn't. And they
Right.
planted redbud.
yeah. No, yeah, the streets department generally wouldn't do that. But,
Okay, so
but we
you're
can
going to
talk
talk
to
to
them.
them, and you're gonna
Mhm.
come back and give us, an update on how we're gonna not let this continue to happen, and then you're gonna find out about this redbud tree down here.
Yep.
Well, again,
Exactly.
the alternative is to change the guideline, and if that's what we want to do, then we can send to the guideline committee to change it.
And Matt, when you talk to the arborist, and we talk about taking trees out of private property, do they include the diameter of the tree as a measure as to whether or not it should come out? Make sure they use the diameter. That used to be the guidelines years ago.
Yeah, no, so the, almost always the tree that goes in ends up being a 2.5-inch diameter. So the planted tree, we have the minimum requirement for the diameter of the tree. But what was taken, you can't correlate between what was taken out versus, and then what's put in, because you can have a 6-inch tree that's taken out and it's replaced by 2.5 or more, and then a 20-inch or a 20-foot tree that's taken out and it's replaced by 2.5-inch or more. So that's not going to be as relevant as what the mature canopy size is.
Okay.
So eventually, a crepe myrtle only grows so big, and it only lasts 20 or 30 years anyway. Whereas, a pecan tree is huge, but it does take 60 or 80 years and lasts 100 years or something.
I'm delighted that we're addressing this.
Okay, any other items at this time? Any
Well,
other
just
questions
if there's
or
any
anything?
update on the beer garden.
On what?
On the beer garden. So that
Yes,
is,
that's true. What's,
right, so that's coming up at the updates committee meeting. Or working group meeting, thank you. The updates working group meeting, which is after, comes up the day before the design review meeting.
okay,
So February 2nd.
all right. Well, if y'all will give us an update on that.
Yep.
Any other items at this point in time?
One more question. Matt, are we going to be sued? Why do we have to have Jamie here, a lawyer?
No.
A new requirement?
Partly it's for training for her. She's learning how this body operates and what some of the issues are that come up, and how, one, we address them, and two, also to provide us with the opportunity for legal advice on the occasion that we need it. And as Scott mentioned, and as you know, he's never been at, well, not never, but at least in my tenure, never been at one of these meetings. So, and that's apparently because he has a conflict. So now, apparently he's been allowed to include Jamie in these meetings for our benefit and for hers.
Does that
And
mean we
we-
can give her homework?
We thank you, Jamie.
Yeah. What was that, Joe?
Does that mean we can give her homework?
Yeah.
Yes, we may. That's why I said we may have to use you.
Yeah, we used Scott before, remember
Yeah,
somebody called Scott
I don't think we're authorized to give her homework, no.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none? We are adjourned.
Thank you.